You're watching Gospel on the Move. I'm your host, James Baxter. We can be seen every Sunday morning, so check your television guide for Gospel on the Move. We have, yes, Brother Morris Merriweather with us today, and we want to talk about the 2020 vision of the Jackson Madison County School Board. But we want to begin this session asking Brother Morris Merriweather to tell us some things about him. Brother Merriweather.
Well, I attended public schools here in Jackson, Tennessee, and graduated, went off to Tennessee State, transferred back to Lane College after I met a young lady at Lane and got married. And so therefore, after that, I came back and started working with juveniles in the Madison County juvenile court system. And from there, in 1985, they asked me to start the first alternative school, and so I did that. And then they wanted a truancy board, and I started the truancy board. So I have worked as administrator in the Madison County school system up until 2006 when I retired.
But you were not a certified teacher.
No, I was not.
Now, which superintendent hired you over that
Fred
alternative
Stanley,
school?
Mr. Fred Stanley.
And give us the superintendent that released you.
That was Miss Dr. Zambito.
Okay, Dr. Zambito.
Right.
We'll be right back after commercial break with Brother Morris Merriweather. You're watching Gospel on the Move, and yes, we want to welcome Brother Sean Bledsoe and Bledsoe Funeral Home into the Gospel on the Move family of sponsors. Yes, Bledsoe Funeral Home is celebrating 75 years of service to the people, the families of Jackson, Madison, rural West Tennessee. Thank you, Brother Sean Bledsoe, for being a part of our family of sponsors. Now we go back to our special guest, Brother Morris Merriweather. Let's talk about Vision 2020. Bring us up to date.
Well, I think probably for the viewing audience, probably would be good to talk about
Have your way.
How
We got
Vision
here.
20 came about.
Okay.
To give a little history so that the people can understand it. After we got out of court, the whole purpose of making sure that we got unitary status was from the good old boys and the powers that be to make sure that we could do what we want to do. That we don't have to worry about pleasing the court, that if we get enough board members in there and that we're able to get the black community to the point where they did not have a voice because we was always backed by the court. And therefore we can do what we want to do. So then we went from having majority school board members to being in the minority. We only now have 2 board members on there, and their powers are diluted. So during the course of, I guess I would say in the last 5 to 6 years, 2,000 students, majority white, in the broad daylight is the way I like to say it. They got up. They wasn't noisy, 1 by 1, 2 by 2, and left and went to private school and surrounding counties, left public schools. The media that we have in Jackson, Tennessee, the ministerial, the fraternities, the sororities, everybody was asleep at the wheel.
What's the NAACP asleep?
The NAACP was asleep as well.
Okay.
Because no one, as of this date, has had an audience where they address why did we lose 2,000 students. It's kind of like this. Imagine that you have a dealership and you arrive at work and 2 of your cars are off the lot, gone. But you just gone in and say, well, it's just 2 cars.
Wow.
You would have it investigated and call the police department. Well, 2,000 human being, God-given children got up along with the guidance of their parents, left the public school system, and went to private school. And as of this date, it's not been in the Jackson Sun, it hasn't been on the news media. Nobody's talking about it because those are the precious white kids who went to private school.
Let's take a commercial break, and we'll be right back after these messages. You're watching Gospel on the Move. Today we have a special edition in that we're focusing on 2020 vision, the evolution, how it all came about, and where we are to date. Our special guest is Brother Morris Merriweather. Brother Merriweather, if you would continue.
Well, once those students got up and left, we went from 14,000 students to 12,000 students. That happened when our new superintendent, Dr. Verna Ruffin, came to town. I was present when they interviewed her, and I said to her, it's either a good job to run to or a good job to run from. And she laughed. And I said at that time, I will give you some figures. We have the county mayor here, city mayor, board members, chamber of commerce. And when I make this statement, if I'm wrong, somebody challenge me right now on air. And I talked about the 2,000 students who got up in the broad daylight and left our school system. When they left our school system, each one of those school students, we get around $9,000 and a little over per student. So the money followed the students. So when them students left and went to private school, the money went to private schools. We're not only supporting public schools, we're supporting private schools because those are our tax dollars that's leaving. They are gradually still leaving. So we're over 2,000 now. And one day we woke up and said, we got the lights on, we got all these teachers here, but we don't have enough students to fill these schools. We sleep at the wheel and allow our tax dollars to go out to South Elementary, way out past Pilsen. Anything to get away from the minority community. Got way out there, and right now we have less than 300 kids in a $12 million building. And so while all of this is going on, the buildings are running down because we're not governing the maintenance department. They allowed everybody to do what they want to. Everybody's getting their money, and everybody's happy, except those who are left behind. You cannot, when in 1969, when they integrated schools, they would not allow the West Campus to become fully a part of public school. I call a private school inside a public school. They said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we just can't let the African American community have that nice building. Why don't we keep the building? Let's see. We're going to call it Madison Academic, and we're going to have a lottery. And we're going to have a lottery, and we shake it up. And they won't be on the lottery team. We'll say, oh, you get to go. And then when this student of color come along, oh, we're sorry, the ball didn't come up in your favor. So Madison is a predominant private school, white private school inside a public school paid for by taxpayers' dollars, and people of color is paying for those students. They're doing an outstanding job. They have won the decathlon, the honors, for 11 years. And that school now is beginning to show some work because that's an old school. Right. So now they're saying, well, we need to preserve that school. We're going to move that school to, this is a part of the 2020, we're going to move this school to Liberty. But there are white parents who do not want to go to Liberty because they got a large number of African American students there, and we kind of got our own little world here. And so there's a rumble in the white community that they don't want to go. Well, what they did then, they pulled the most effective and qualified teachers out of JCM, put them over there in Madison. Them teachers didn't come from New York City. They came from Jackson. All right, once you pull that, then they created a Northeast Academy. They pulled the best and brightest teacher from all of the schools, put them over there, and that's another private school inside of public schools. All right? Then the surrounding counties start saying, well, we want some of them too, so they start pulling from there. So they leave behind two segments of teachers, some committed African American, committed Caucasian, but in few numbers. Then they got the lazy, sorry teachers who don't want to teach, just trying to wait. It's about another 5 minutes and I'll be able to retire. So that's why the public school system in Madison County has deteriorated. The buildings have deteriorated because the superintendents had agendas. when Dr. Zambito came. Her agenda was to get unitary status, get rid of 5 principles. She got rid of 4 and the 4th one died before she got to it.
Let's go to commercial break, and we'll be right back with Brother Morris Merriweather, 2020 Vision, Jackson Madison County Schools. You're watching Gospel on the Move. I'm James Baxter. I'm your host for today's edition, along with my friend, Brother Morris Merriweather, as he continued to update us on the 2020 vision of the Jackson Madison County School Board. Brother Merriweather.
After we lost our majority effective teachers, I want to make it perfectly clear that I believe some of our better teachers are still in the vineyard working. Okay. But they're not appreciated. They have hired a school leader that the teachers are afraid to talk. They're intimidated. The morale is at an all-time low. You can go on the Facebook page and you'll hear teachers talking about, I'm in Murfreesboro and I'm not coming back. Or they sent me over to their school and it was awful place. So there's a lot of negative publicity out there. There's a school by the name of JCM, which is a predominantly black school. The system has never supported JCM. JCM members, including myself, wanted to have a school built. They promised the powers to be, promised to build JCM.
They did.
And they kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off because they was at the table saying, well, we need to figure out a way to close JCM. I know what we'll do. We won't build another school. We'll let the best teachers come out of there, and then they'll be fighting. We'll make sure that the kids who are there are going to be some of the best fighters and just organized and not interested in education. And school, that's what's going to allow that to happen. There's been 2 shootings, one killed, I believe, and the other one was injured right across the street. And the community, if you drive down the street, it's like a roller coaster. Recently, the city council member was able to convince the incoming re-elected mayor, could we get some pavement in front of the school? At least we can make it look better. But you can ride down there now on a nice street and you don't have to do a roller coaster ride. But you get to look at the harbor site. The peeling, the paint, the windows. It looks like one visitor came to town and he said to me, is that school closed? No, that school's open. He said, oh, it just looked like it's been neglected. Yeah. So it's been neglected for years. So they woke up one day and said, well, it's time for us to make us some money. I'm sure someone said, what about the students? Oh, most of the students that we wanted to go to private school and surrounding counties are gone. And you also have board members sitting on the Madison County Board of Education, and their children are in private schools. All you got to do is ask them, because you ask your board member, where do your child go? Now, my thing is that it's a hypocrite. Why would you be on the board governing public school students, and at the same time, the school system is not good enough for your child, but you're telling other people, get your work, go to work, we'll pay you. It doesn't make sense. A lot of our Madison County school teachers, I know because I was subbing and I talked to the teachers. So that is one of the reasons why the new superintendent dropped me from the sub list, because I was talking about what was going on in public education in Madison County. So I'm no longer able to get firsthand information as of 2 months ago because she dropped me and refused to give me a reason.
When did she drop you now?
2 months ago. And would not return my call for 6 weeks. And then when I caught her at a board meeting, she said, "Oh, I don't have an idea why you're not there." And I said, "Well, I do." Wow. They tell me that I don't have a teacher's license. My teacher's license expired. Ma'am, I never had a teacher's license. So how can something expire that I never had? Right. Well, I'll try to check into it and get back to you tomorrow. Tomorrow has been 4 weeks ago. I finally caught up with her at a board meeting, and she still's not talking. She's speaking, but
not
not
talking.
giving an explanation. So I'm unable to find out what's going on. And my thing is that it's not the $62.50 that I miss. It's the passion of working with students and making sure what's going on and trying to make things better. We need more African American males. We'll sleep at the wheel. We recently lost one of our seasoned principals at one of the high schools, Dr. June Murray. Something happened between her and the superintendent, and nobody knows. No one in the community has been able to get the superintendent to really tell what happened. We're still investigating it, still no proof. But, well, that's a good way to put another white at the helm. So we have a white at the helm. We got 65% African American teachers, and the system is ran by the Caucasian community. Wow. While we're asleep at the wheel. Our kids are growing up and not getting a quality education. And we go to West Middle School, a community of African American, sleep at the wheel while they come in. This superintendent put a white principal, a white system principal, and a white guidance counselor. I had a little girl say, Mr. Merriweather, I can't get nobody to listen to me. What happened? This white student is bullying me. Well, you're not going to get any help. The principal's white, the assistant principal's white, and the guidance counselor's white.
Now, what about Rose Hill?
Rose Hill had a white principal. They got rid of the white principal and replaced that white principal with a white principal. Only place we got a black principal at the school that they want to close, that's JCL.
Wow.
And so all of this mess is going on, and at the same time, people are going on to church and Sunday school and Bible class and going to little teas and having different little functions. In the meantime, the haves have taken off and left the have-nots.
Let's go to commercial break. We'll be right back after these messages. You're watching Gospel on the Move. Yes, Gospel is on the move. Today we're in special edition with Brother Morris Merriweather, 2020 Vision, as relates to the Jackson-Madison County School Board. Brother Merriweather.
And while this 2020 was going on, we had Dr. I call her doctor, she doesn't have a doctoral degree, but Miss Helen Owens, Miss Manola Patterson, tried to bring together charter school to work with 100 students. They're going to increase it until we could have a comprehensive school where from K through 12. Right. They fought it. We can't allow it because if we let, and this doesn't make sense. If we let them start out with 100, and then each one of those students are receiving $9,000, that money is going to follow the child. Well, why would you worry about 100 students and you got over 2,000 white students who have left and you hadn't said nothing but bless you? That don't make any sense. While all of this 2020 going on, the county commission had to deal with the jail facility because it's overcrowded with those public school students who are continually getting in trouble. So while we cannot receive enough money to keep the doors open and we have to start closing school buildings because the white kids have fled, I call it the same thing we had during integration. And that's white flight. They just gone. And so while that is going on, they decided we need to do an addition to the jail facilities. It was no problem to come up with $30 million to build a jail facility for those students that are left behind in public education.
Mama.
And so the community sleep at the wheel. No one has said anything about, well, we need, if it's overcrowded, we need the most space. They're stacking them in there like sardines, right. And now they build them to spread it out so we can get some more sardines in there. Wow. That don't make any sense. Now, to end up, they're having meetings after meetings after meetings to decide on what buildings they're going to close. At the meeting that I attended last night, we're talking about building new classrooms at several other schools, but we're closing other buildings. That doesn't make any sense. The firm, Kim Horn, is a firm that, if you go on their website, their agenda is cost cutting. It's not academic. We haven't begun to address the academic at all.
Now, isn't Buddy White, the former superintendent, working for one of these firms?
I'm not sure on that
now.
Go ahead. I'm not sure on that. But what's happening, too, while we're asleep, the chairman of the school board is also the CEO of H&M Construction Company. So he said, well, let me go and do the appraisal. I go around to the building and find out what needs to be done in the buildings. And then we'll let you do all the work. And we won't charge anything. Unbeknown to the community, it's called subcontracting. You sub it out to me. I help you, you help me. And we all be happy. The kids who want to go to private school and the surrounding counties will be gone. And we just have the kids who can't go nowhere. Have versus the have-nots. And everybody is just tickled to death. Nobody's saying anything. We're going to wake up on December the 7th. And once that board vote to close all of those schools, no court and nobody can stop them. They are now in the driver's seat. The judges and the courts can't do anything because we got unitary status. It's been a plan all along to make the school system what it is now. And we got people got the pool of kids out there, save my school, save my school. What about saving students? Let me conclude with this. Here's what I say we need to be doing. We need to be recruiting highly effective educators, recruiting and retaining impacting educators. We need to have a relevant professional development, not just have one so we say we had professional development. Expand the educator role. Implement accountability system. We don't have accountability system. Everybody's doing their thing. When the black community enters the Board of Education, they will find $100,000 spent for the superintendent plush office. I was in there.
$100,000.
Each other superintendent has spent $50,000, but this superintendent has spent $100,000.
How did she spend it? What kind of?
She got a plush office, plush boardroom. The taxpayers have not really went by there to see there's a fine building, and now we're talking about we might want to move it to JCL. Now that is the most ridiculous thing. You're gonna take the $100,000 office and move it by the tracks. It don't make no sense. And then we need to preserve instructional time. No one is talking about instructional time. We're talking about, well, if I get the bill, this billing, how much money I'm going to receive. Give me a cut of that. I need some of that. It's all about business making. Where's the Chamber of Commerce? We hadn't heard from the Chamber of Commerce. There's no forums going on where we can really get it.
What about the NAACP?
NAACP has talked about saving one school. That's JCM. And JCM, only reason that JCM is still in business because they hadn't put the padlock on there because December the 7th hadn't come.
Pastors and preachers.
Preaching on Sunday morning.
Code Red Coalition.
Preaching on Sunday morning. Coming back for Bible class. And I used to say that they was marrying people. They're not married. They buried Bubba and Shanika. Also, we need to link up students to college and careers, and we need to expand technology access. And then look in terms of investing in early childhood learning. These things that I'm talking about, they not discussing them. They discussing which pocket I'm going to put my money in.
Let's take a commercial break, and we'll be right back to wrap up this discussion with Brother Morris Merriweather, 2020 Vision, Jackson, Madison County School System. You're watching Gospel on the Move. I'm James Baxter here with Brother Morris Merriweather, and we've had a discussion on public education as it relates to 2020 Vision, Jackson, Madison County School System. Brother Merriweather, what can we do to mobilize or to rally the African American community as we move toward this date that will live on in infamy, December 7th, when the school board will make a decision? Do we go with 2020 Vision, or do we dismount that vision and look for an alternative situation?
We did not go with Vision 2020. Vision 2020 is more like blind 2020. There's a lot of questions that hasn't been answered, and I frankly don't believe that we have anyone that's really looking at it from a sense that is this really going to make it better for us. I think that due to the fact they know that public education is basically that 65% of them are African American students, and majority of the other students have gone to private schools around the county. We're just going to run it and run it and run it until it run in the ground. There is an alternative. We're less than 45 days out from December the 7th. There is a proposal that is being pushed by Brent Lay. It's called Jackson Better Schools. When you look at that program, and I wish I had a copy of it tonight with me, when you look at that program, it's smaller classrooms, it's qualified teachers, it couldn't save $2,000 on buses, neighborhood schools. I once upon a time was opposed to neighborhood schools because I'm a product of those neighborhood schools. We didn't have the resources nor the qualified effective teachers because they kept them over in the white schools. But now there's a way for the African American community and the community at large to come together and have smaller classrooms, greater accountability among the administrators, more African American teachers, more African American administrators. This plan that Brent Lay is pushing needs to be pushed out into the community, and it needs to be put on the table along with 2020. Jackson Better Schools, 2020. I believe that Better Schools of Jackson would make 2020 look like the plan what it is, and it's a blind plan to help fill the pockets of the haves. That's where we are. And if in 44 days now from this date, if the community does not wake up and ask questions and attend the meeting, last night when we was talking about how much money was going to be spent, there was one or two ministers out of all the ministers in Jackson. Didn't see the fraternities in the organization. Where was the people with the signs last night, Save Our Kids? They was not there. And so that's the plan.
Was Mayor Gist there? Where's Mayor Gist and Johnny Dodd and
I have not seen them.
Ernest Brooks and Harvey Buchanan?
I have not seen them at the meeting, and I have attended all the meetings. Okay. So we're going to have some accountability. The people that we elected is going to have to be responsible. But as long
as Jimmy Eldridge been there?
I was at a meeting with the state legislator at 7:30 yesterday morning, and Mr. Eldridge was not at the meeting. He may have had personal reasons why he was not there. Representative Shaw and Representative Jackson was there and addressed the group. But at this time, all of our elected officials need to be there. I attended a meeting. After we left that meeting, we didn't finish up to about 10. And you have board members that is not even responding to the constituents. Okay. So we got a serious problem. 2020 is one of the worst things that have happened in public education in Jackson, Tennessee since I've been here, and I've been here 64 years.
Let's go to commercial break, and we'll be right back to wrap up our show with Brother Morris Merriweather. The clock on the wall tells us it's time for us to go. And in leaving you today, we always wish you the blessings that only God can give us in this life and when we get to the other shore. Now we want Brother Morris Merriweather to give us a final statement, a final charge on where we go from here.
Where we go from here is where we should have been. We should have been praising and asking God for peace, for guidance, and we haven't. The day we move prayer out of the school, public schools across this nation begin to deteriorate. But since we are residents of Madison County, and we got some people with hidden agendas, and the children are not first, they are the last thought of. Only way out of this is prayer. But once you pray, you can't just sit around and wait. You got a prayer without works is dead. We got to get up and work and find out what's going on, who's doing this, why are they doing this, how much of this does everybody benefit from this? Till we start asking the important question, Jackson Madison County school system is going to hell in a handbasket.
Good morning. Have a blessed day in the Lord. Thank you, Brother Merriweather, for being our guest.